Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, back once again to do a review of more sound gear. And today we are going to be looking at the RAAL Requisite SR1A True Ribbon Earfield Monitor, they call it, which is a really interesting and unique product. So we will take a look at this. So a reminder that if you are not already, please subscribe to my channel and help support my efforts here, bringing reviews of sound gear and hopefully in the future some more about the science of sound type videos. I have one about output impedance up that you can check out that I will link to down below, but I hope to do more of that kind of thing moving forward too. So please like, subscribe, and do those things that you do for YouTube channels. Okay, the RAAL Requisite SR1A. What is it? Now, as you saw, it's a very unique looking piece, and I will take it off the stand here to get a better look at it. So, what it is you have two true ribbon speaker transducers put on this headphone-like headband suspension system. Okay, and I'll even put it on here. Like this. Okay, where there is the very, common looking suspension strap headphone, headband system. And then there is this strap back here that goes around behind the head and all that to help hold it in place. And then it's supposed to sit like right in front of the earlobe. Okay, here the speaker parts are supposed to sit right here in front of the earlobe. But then other than that, it's completely open. Like it's call it open back or closed back headphone. Doesn't even make sense because it's just baffleless, sealless completely. It's just open. They literally just took a speaker driver and put it on a headband system so that the speaker driver just floats right by your ears. So Earfield monitors, they call them. So the goal seems to be to create a speaker-like presentation and a speaker-like listening experience in a headphone-like form factor. All right, so do they succeed in that goal? And, overall, I think, yes, they do. And we'll get into the sound here in just a moment. So, as far as the build and the fit and the comfort and all of those things, just a few quick comments. Now, I will also say there is a lot to talk about with the SR1A. And so please read my written review if you have more questions or I don't answer something that you have that you are curious about here in this video, because there is a long written review where I do a deeper dive into this that hopefully gets into more of those, and I will try to keep this more as a brief highlight video. So now as far as the build and the fit, I mean, it's a fairly quality build. It's made of good materials, like the headband there has some good springiness to it and whatnot. The straps here are all leather, okay, and whatnot. Now, one nitpick that I do have is if you look at the size adjustments for the headband here, like you see that there is just this kind of almost like just a belt-like system that you would wear on your pants, like that kind of almost a buckle system where you have these knobs right here and then the holes of the strap just fit over it. And then same thing here for this strap that goes around the head. You get these adjustments here. Now, I find these adjustments to be a little bit too on the coarse side, meaning there's not enough fine adjustment. And so I think a lot of people, myself included, will have some issues of when this is on the head and you move your head a lot, okay? Like, it wiggles around quite a bit. And, like, if I look down, if I were to do work or something on my desk and I look down at a piece of paper or something, okay, you can see the whole thing. Can you see that? Starts to slide forward. For me, starts taking my glasses off of my face and whatnot. And that's because the headband is good this way, but it's not really good in torsion this way. And there's a lot of give and whatnot. All that. And then the fact that it's completely open baffle, like you lose the friction of the cup around the ear on the side of the head to help hold things in place. So the adjustment, you can make it really tight, but even then, like, it still like does that forward falling off, slipping off the head thing. And even backwards a little bit, if you want to like kick back in your recliner, you can slide off the head backwards and all that. So you're a little bit limited in terms of how you can move around and whatnot when you put this on. However, once you get it on, the comfort, once you get it on and you're not moving around much, the comfort is really good. Didn't notice any hot spotting. anything like that. There's a little bit less fatigue over longer listening periods because it's more like listening to speakers than it is like listening to headphones. And then also like your ears are not enclosed, so there's a little bit more airflow, and it's not like having something over your ears constantly. Okay, which is just an unnatural thing for we humans to experience for long periods of time. Okay, so that's just quick comments on the build and the fit and all of that. Now, there are several buying options here for the SR1A. It comes with a lot of accessories. Like the stock package, if you will, is the headset itself. This, I don't think they actually gave it a model number. It is just RAAL's like matching speaker amp breakout box, where it takes the output of a speaker amp and, you know, puts a headphone tap on it. So we have this female 4-pin XLR connector here to plug the actual headset into. All that. Now, why are they doing that? Well, this is an ultra low impedance system, at least as far as headphones go, and so it's not a great match for many headphone amplifiers that are out there. So they built this breakout box that they include in the $3,500 stock package so that you can connect this to just about any speaker amp you want that handles a 6 ohm load. Like it says 6 ohm total load right on the back here. And so with that box, they send 2 pair of banana plug terminated speaker wire. Okay, speaker wires. They're just short ones, just jumper cables, so that you can go from your amp into this box, and then you plug your speakers into the back of this box too. And there's a switch on the back of the box to select between using the headset and your speakers. So that's one option, $3,500 for all that. And this stock cable, okay, which is a 7-foot long cable with a female, again, a 4-pin XLR on the amp, and then 2, and I don't know why this is, but that's how they're doing it. You get dual 3.5 millimeter TRRS connections, okay, on the headset end. I don't know why they're TRRS 4-pin. Okay, there's only a total of 4 electrical contacts. You really only need 2 per side. So I don't know if that was just, that's what they could get for a while. I don't know. That's just the way this one is built. Okay, so $3,500 for that package. For $9,000, you can get the headset, the stock cable I just showed you, and this big thing. This is the HSA-1B combination headphone amp and speaker amp. See on the back you have both balanced and single-ended inputs, and then also speaker binding posts. Okay, so this amp is designed to work with very low impedance loads, like it's safe to use with 2 ohm loads and all of that. So RAAL made this to match with not only their headset, but you can use it as like an all-in-one desktop solution to drive speakers on your desk or all that if you wish. Okay, or if you have really sensitive speakers, even big room speakers, that sort of thing. So that amp costs $4,500 on its own, but RAAL bundles it with the SR1A headset for $9,000. And then $9,500, and they will also throw in the speaker breakout box, and you get all those 3 together. Then finally, RAAL offers a wide variety of headphone cables on their website. And so the owner of this set also sent me their silver studio reference cable, which is again 4-pin female XLR there, and the dual 3.5 millimeter TRRS on the speaker end. And again, like this is their top line cable, which costs about $1,050. I'm not going to go into huge detail on this, but does it sound better than the stock cable? Yes, it does. Okay, by a noticeable amount. Is it $900 better? That's for you to answer, but for some, probably very well could be. Okay, back onto the gear here. Now the HSA-1B amplifier, I will review eventually and give it its own review, because you can buy it and use it as a standalone amplifier for headphones and speakers and all of that. I have lined up a bunch of high-end headphones that are coming in, and so I will be using the HSA-1B amp to evaluate all of those. So when all of that is done, you can expect a full video review on that amplifier on its own too. So today, As far as sound goes, I want to make a few comments then on this headset here. So, spatial presentation. Let's start there because that's really where this starts to separate itself out from traditional headphone models. So, you can rotate the position of the ribbon speakers here. So you can have them pretty much flat against the head or open them all the way up. Like, I mean, you can go past perpendicular if you wish. Okay, perpendicular to the plane of the side of the head anyway. And what that does is, like, when they are more closed, you get a narrower sound stage, but a little bit more bass presence. And then when they're all the way open, as they open, you get an increasingly bigger sound stage with a little bit less bass presence as you keep going out. I did most of my listening and evaluating with the speaker parts, the ribbons, in about a 45-degree angles, meaning about 45 degrees between from the plane of the side of the head, essentially. Okay, so with that positioning, I mean, I think RAAL succeeds basically in making this sound like a speaker presentation, removing all of the quirks that you can get from room interactions and room noise and standing waves and all of that kind of stuff, removing the effects of the room. And then also, if you turn your head, again, not too vigorously, but if you turn your head, like, the same speaker-like presentation stays with you, okay, regardless of your head position. So what does that mean? Like, most of the sound is out in front. Like, there's a sound stage presented to you, and that sound stage, you can change the size of it, but at my 45-degree position, it was really big. And it did a good job of, like, say, if there was a concert recording in a concert hall with, like, a symphonic work or something like that, you could hear the stage, and you could definitely hear the position. The imaging and the separation was really great within that stage up there in the presentation. But then I could also hear quite clearly that stage existed within a bigger concert hall or within an arena if it was more of a rock concert kind of a thing. Okay, so the spatial presentation is very speaker-like, but also just really excellent. Okay, just, again, excellent imaging, separation, layering, and depth, and just all of that stuff. Really good. About as good as I have ever heard on a head-based listening system. Likewise, the resolution is also amazing. Like, this thing was drawing out, like, individual instrument sounds, like the rosinousness, or that kind of zizzy sound of a bow being dragged across a string on any string instrument, like a violin or a cello or an upright bass, something like that. You hear that really quickly. Or really clearly. But then it's able to do that with, the dozens of instruments that are present and often playing at the same time in bigger, louder symphonic recordings. Well, that, like, one of my torture test tracks is the 1812 Overture by Eric Kunzel in the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra. And, like, that track, the end of the 1812 Overture is the big, loud festival overture part there, where there is often live cannon fire, and this track has that, a full symphony orchestra. But this particular rendition threw in a vocal choir and a bell choir on top of all of that, and this headset did not freak out at all. It held all of that together. The spatial presentation was great. The resolution was great. There was a great blend of, blending the sounds that are supposed to, like, blend together and then separating out of the sounds that should sound separated. Just was pretty lifelike and convincing to a level I really have not heard in a head-based system yet before. Okay, so resolution, great. Soundstage imaging, all of that, great. The frequency response presentation is a bit on the brighter side. Because of its nature, like, there's a pretty aggressive roll-off in the bass, in the sub-bass, below about 60 hertz. Like, if you like to listen to someone like Hans Zimmer, for example, the Mountains track that we all use for dynamic range testing and all that, the descending bass line in that track that comes after some of the big brass swells, like, you can definitely hear this headset start to roll off that deep bass as it keeps going lower and lower, and it disappears far earlier than it does on other headphones that I've heard, like namely my Hi-Fi Min HE1000 V2. So it does not have the bass extension on that. Now, the treble is a little bit brighter, but also really smooth. So they struck this excellent balance of a little bit brighter signature, but kept it really smooth. It doesn't sound sharp or piercing or sibilant, hardly ever, really. And so really smooth, yet still detailed and clear top-end presentation. So it's that kind of, you hear that stereotypical. We like the sparkle and the presence, but we don't want the sharpness or the harshness, and this strikes that balance really well. So a couple of other comments then, like I have heard that some people like to use a set like the the SR1A with a subwoofer to try to recover some of that sub-bass roll-off. Now, I have a sub in my listening room. It's an older sub that has just been chilling in my somewhat rudimentary 2-channel system because of life situation. I have not had the opportunity to explore that as much as I have headphones. I'm hoping to get to that. Anyway, I have an older Polk PSW 505, I think, subwoofer. Clearly not on the same performance level as this thing. Okay, but I was able to run that sub in conjunction with this, and using the speaker output, I have an Adcom GFA 555 Mark II speaker amp, and a Shit Saga preamp, and then I use the Chord Hugo 2 as the DAC in this system. And so I was able to... The Saga preamp has twin outputs on it, so I was able to run one set of RCA outputs to the speaker amp and another set of RCA outputs to the subwoofer, and hear this with the sub. And I have long been skeptical of how that will work, because the distance, like these sit right next to the ear, and then the sub is some larger distance than that away. So if this and the sub are ever trying to reproduce frequencies that overlap, which with any crossover, there's usually some amount of roll-off, so there's going to be some overlap there, create some phasing issues. And then beyond that, like with the distance, like you think about like a bass drum or a kick drum, you hear that initial hit of the mallet to the skin of the drum. And then a little bit after that, you hear the deeper tone of the drum come in. And I was worried, like with the difference in distance, you'd hear the higher pitch of mallet to skin first, and then there would be a noticeable delay before the tone of the drum would come in from the subwoofer. And here's the thing. I did hear some of that, right? I laid down and got my head as close to the sub driver as I could. And I did hear some of that where they overlapped. I could hear like the technical term is beats. You could hear that wave interference where they were overlapping, usually like in the 80 to 120-ish hertz range in there. You could hear some beats going on, a kind of a wow, 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 wow kind of effect to it that are the kinds of things you listen to when you tune a piano, or listen for when you tune a piano, like those kinds of things. However, lowering the crossover on the sub as low as it would go, and mine only goes down to 60 hertz, but at 60 hertz, that that overlap started to stop, got rid of those beats, and I was sitting close enough that I didn't really hear the delay of like what I was talking about with the kick drum, of this and then the tone afterwards. So that was enough to convert me into thinking that you probably could with a higher quality sub. And again, I could hear the quality difference between really well resolving, great timbre, all of that here, and just a lot sloppier, not as clean subwoofer. Okay. So with a higher quality sub, with a phase dial instead of a binary 0 or 180 degree phase switch on a sub, like you probably could get that dialed in. So then you recover the deep bass performance. You get some more dynamic punch and impact, which this is not very macro dynamic or impactful, particularly in the low end, and so forth. You could recover that. However, funny story. After using the sub with this, I go out of my basement listening room, and the family is sitting there in the next floor up, and they're all looking at me like, why are we only hearing bass this time? Right? Where was the rest of the music? Why was it just always bump, bump, boom? Okay, that sort of thing. So Using this with a sub does in some sense defeat one of the advantages of using a head-based listening system, that even if it's open back or just completely no baffle like this system, you can close the door to your listening room and the sound pretty much stays in that room. Whereas like normal speakers in a sub, it often leaks out unless you have some really effective soundproofing in your room construction, which I don't. Okay, so just keep all of that in mind. So this is getting a little longer than I normally like to do, but there is a lot to talk about here. So I think that is enough to start summing up though. Okay, so resolution, excellent. Sound staging, class leading for the price. Okay, same with the resolution. Timbre, wonderful. Okay, the signature is a little bit on the bright side. And there's not a lot of sub-bass presence here. You can supplement it with a subwoofer. We just talked about some of the caveats that come with that. Okay, but just don't expect a very bassy or like punchy kind of dynamic, hit you type of listening experience from this. I think, therefore, it is better suited to a little bit more mellower, chill kinds of classical music, smooth jazz, just music that doesn't depend on a lot of sub-bass presence, like heavy metal, hip-hop, EDM. Those kinds of things depend on a lot of lower bass presence and impact to really draw you in. Like, those are key features of the genre. I wouldn't recommend this headset for those kinds of music. But if you are not a bass head, or you don't listen to bass-heavy music, and you prefer a speaker-like presentation over a headphone-like presentation, but you need a head-based solution for late night listening or whatever, it's hard to go wrong with this, okay? A lot of good things going on here. All right, so I will leave it there for now. If you want to read more about my thoughts on like how different signal chains affected this, to the extent that I was able to test that, and just more thoughts on everything that I've said here, including more descriptions of the sound and whatnot, please see my written review, which I will post on HeadFi, and I will link to down below. But until next time, I am Wave Theory, and enjoy the music.